All right, guys, we should be live here. I'm going to head right over to the National Weather Service Norman, Oklahoma page, and we're going to get right down to business. Before I do that, if you guys have any suggestions, we're completely open to feedback here. So if you have any suggestions on how we can make the live stream better, let me know in the comment section. If there's anything that you guys noticed with the live stream that you'd like to tell me about, please let me know. We're completely open to feedback here. Make sure to drop a like on the video and to share this information out to other people, because by doing that, we can spread the word to as many people as possible here and hopefully get everybody on the same page on what to expect with tonight's severe weather events. So we do have a moderate risk of severe storms across a large portion of Oklahoma. This does expand a little bit into northwest Texas and even into south central Kansas as well. And we're going to talk about all these states and the specific impacts that you guys can expect. But I want to focus on the Norman, Oklahoma office first because that's covering the majority of our moderate risk region. As you guys can see here, 5 p.m. this afternoon into 2 a.m. tomorrow morning is when we are expecting severe storms across northwest Texas into western and central Oklahoma here. The main threat is going to be damaging wind gusts. Some of these winds could be in excess of 75 miles an hour, which would be equivalent to a Category 1 hurricane. And it's possible that we could see some gusts getting in excess of 100 miles an hour. So we're really watching the damaging wind threat above all. There could be a derecho-like squall line later on this afternoon or later this evening into the overnight. The next thing that we are looking at is the tornado threat. There is a medium tornado threat on a scale of 1 to 4 here. We're going to likely see a few tornadoes across the primary risk regions. Some of these will be embedded within the line. However, the highest tornado threat is going to be across a little localized area around Altus, Oklahoma, into Lawton, Clinton, towards Oklahoma City. This entire yellow shaded region here along the I-40 corridor down through the I-44 corridor here towards the OKC Metro. That is where the highest tornado threat is going to be. That is for early this evening. And we're going to talk about kind of the timeline for these storms in just a second. The initial storms that are able to develop will likely be supercells. The ingredients are very favorable for supercells and tornadoes, so if we can see those kind of storms developing along the Red River later on when the sun is starting to set, there could be some tornadoes with those, possibly some strong tornadoes producing EF2 or greater damage as well. So we're really watching that in addition to the wind threat, and we'll, of course, be taking a look at hail as well. Here's a look at the timeline for severe storms across western and central Oklahoma into northwestern Texas here. If you live anywhere along the I-40 corridor west of Oklahoma City down through the I-44 corridor, so this would be along a line from Enid, Oklahoma down towards Lawton and Wichita Falls, and anywhere to the west of there, the most likely time frame for severe storms will be 5 p.m. this evening into 9 p.m. this evening here. If you live in Oklahoma City southward towards the Texas border, you're going to likely see your route of severe storms after 9 p.m. and closer to midnight, and then anywhere east of Durant, Oklahoma, you're not going to get severe storms until likely after midnight here, and they should be weakening a little bit at that point, but they will definitely still have a good chance of being severe, and we're going to see some strong damaging winds behind this cold front even after the storms do move out of the area here. So this is a significant threat of severe weather. A moderate risk on a scale of 1 to 5 is a 4 out of 5, so we are, of course, watching this very carefully. Now, the Storm Prediction Center has updated their severe weather outlook here. It is still a moderate risk across Oklahoma, stretching a little bit into Texas and Kansas as well. 45% chance of getting damaging winds within 25 miles of your area. That is a very high chance of getting damaging winds in your region. And we're talking about the chance of significant winds all the way up there into southwestern Missouri, maybe up there into northern Arkansas as well. But this is going to start somewhere, we're thinking, along western Kansas down into the eastern portions of the panhandles here. And that should take place somewhere around 6 or 7 p.m. Central Time this evening. The tornado threat, as you guys can see, has been expanded a little bit further northeastward, including the Oklahoma City area here. Take a look at that as we zoom in. This is including Fort Sill, including Oklahoma City here. This is all east of Amarillo, north of Lubbock, but there is definitely a elevated tornado threat there, in addition to the hail threat, which could be significant with those isolated storms across western Oklahoma into the eastern panhandle. So I do want to see kind of what the update is with these storms. As you guys can see there in bold, a derecho is forecast with widespread damaging winds and embedded swaths of significant severe gusts up to 110 miles an hour, centered over parts of Oklahoma this evening into the overnight. Those are the words of the Storm Prediction Center. There will be some very significant straight line winds with this. Of course, we're going to have some watches up in a little bit. These storms will have embedded tornadoes as well. Definitely the chance for very strong, severe, damaging winds. And as you guys can see here, really the only change that has been made with this initial outlook here is expanding the tornado probabilities a little bit further north here. So that has been expanded a little bit. Other than that, there's really been not many changes made to the outlook since this morning. Still a level 4 out of 5 moderate risk down there in the southern plains. If we go over to our public severe weather outlook, which I definitely want to show you guys, we'll take a quick look at that before taking a look at our actual simulated radar here. So here's your public severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. Our primary threats here are going to be widespread damaging winds. Some of these winds could exceed hurricane force. We're going to see scattered damaging winds well in excess of 80 miles an hour. We're going to see tornadoes as well. A few of these could be intense, and there will be some isolated hail. And if we do see those initial storms developing across the eastern panhandles into western Oklahoma, there could be some hail that gets as large as baseball size. And that is before the storm grows upscale into a giant line of embedded supercells and separate single-cell storms with widespread damaging winds becoming likely, and likely a derecho by the time that we get into this evening. Storms will likely approach Oklahoma City as we get closer to midnight. Let's take a look at that simulated radar here. If you are just joining the live stream, it would be really helpful for a lot of other people if you would drop a like on the stream. By doing that, it helps get the information and the word out to other people. It helps it show up in their YouTube feed. And also, if you know anybody that lives across Oklahoma or any of the affected areas, definitely share this link to them. And if you don't want to share this link to them, at least notify them about what's going on, because there will be some pretty big storms across these regions. So this is our latest HRRR model here. I am going to speed this up to 4 p.m. Central Time. And by 4 p.m. Central, you can already see we got a little bit of activity popping up here across northern New Mexico, trying to work its way into the panhandles. But it's not going to be until a couple of hours later, and about 5 or 6 p.m., that this stuff becomes a little bit more widespread. Amarillo, these storms are going to be popping up in the central portion of the panhandles here into western Kansas. And with the environment that we have, with all of that wind shear, the moisture that is rising northward from the Gulf of Mexico, these things could be severe very quickly. And as we get about an hour later, this would be towards, I believe, 7 p.m. Central Time. Look at how intense these storms are across the panhandles. Notice the further north that you go across Oklahoma, northwestern Oklahoma into Kansas, these are more linear. They're going to be elevated. We'll have some damaging winds, maybe a little bit of hail with these. But further south across Texas, where these storms are a little bit more broken up, these are the ones that could have baseball-sized hail and strong, significant tornadoes. I think the tornado threat does wind down, and the wind threat increases, though, as we get beyond 8 or 9 p.m., because at that point, we're going to see this line of storms entering into western Oklahoma here. And I'm actually going to zoom into Oklahoma itself so you guys can see kind of a timeline for these storms. So this is going to be by 8 p.m. this evening. We're going to have a line of storms approaching Elk City, Oklahoma, getting towards the Enid and OKC metro here, not quite towards Lawton. I believe this is along the I-40 corridor here. I believe it's I-40, maybe I-44. But they will be moving west to east. Something else very important that we're going to have to keep in mind is that these storms will be moving very quickly. They are moving east at about 70 to 80 miles an hour, which is equivalent to a car on the freeway. So you're not going to outrun these storms if you're driving into it in a shelf cloud here. If you are under a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning this evening or overnight, you got to get to shelter right away. If there are warnings to your west, you might as well take shelter right there, because these are going to be moving very quickly, and you will likely be under a warning if you are not under one yet. Very, very fast west to east storm motion with this line of storms here. We could still maybe have a strong tornado threat around Elk City by the 7 or 8 p.m. hour if these storms can maintain their rotation and stay somewhat discreet, but I don't think that window lasts very long. I think once we get towards 10 p.m., actually, let me backtrack a little bit towards 9 p.m. You guys can see we still have an intense line here. Wichita Falls, Storms approaching Wichita Falls, Texas, and then northward into Lawton, Oklahoma City. Enid will be taking a look at some severe storms at this point, and the winds associated with this line could be in excess of 80 miles an hour, possibly up to 110 miles an hour in some cases here. So this will likely be a derecho if it can be long-lived and sustained here. There will also be some embedded spin-up tornadoes within this as well. By 10 p.m., these storms would have likely already moved through Oklahoma City. So hopefully beyond the 10 or 11 p.m. hour, you guys in Oklahoma City will be in the clear. But the problem with this is going to be one of these lines of storms that creates pockets of widespread wind damage, widespread power outages as well. There's going to be a lot of tree damage and power outages that the state's going to be waking up to once you guys turn your alarms on tomorrow morning. So definitely keep an eye on that. It's also very important with severe weather events like this to have not just one, but multiple ways to receive warnings. As we get towards 10 p.m., the storms are going to be moving through the Oklahoma City metro, getting towards Stillwater, Ponca City, and then beyond 10 p.m., they will be approaching Tulsa, Muskogee, down towards McAllister, Oklahoma as well. And then they eventually continue to move eastward into the rocky terrain of the Ozarks once we get beyond midnight. So again, here's kind of a little simulation of what you can expect. I'll just turn the simulation on. So 4 p.m., 5, 6, 7. You guys can see kind of how this thing evolves. Here's 6 p.m. You got these storms here, these supercell storms in the eastern portion of the Texas Panhandle, eastern part of the Oklahoma Panhandle as well. And the way that these storms look, it is very possible that these could have extremely large hail and possibly some tornado activity as well. This is likely going to be developing somewhere along a line extending from Liberal, Kansas, southward towards Amarillo and Lubbock, Texas. And then they're going to intensify when they move east of there, approaching the Oklahoma state line. So, and when that happens, they're going to quickly grow upscale into a intense line of storms. Again, this is by 8 p.m., 9, 10. Again, beyond 10 p.m., these will be moving away from the Oklahoma City metro. This may not be exactly what the radar is going to look like because we won't really know that until the storm comes together, but there will definitely be a very strong line of storms moving across the southern plains right in the heart of Tornado Alley as we get into this evening, into the overnight period. So big takeaways for today are going to be that we will see strong to severe storms firing up early this evening from western Kansas into eastern portion of the Texas Panhandle here. Somewhere in the evening time, I think 8 to 11 p.m. this evening is going to be the maximized time frame to get tornadoes, maybe even as early as 6 or 7 p.m. if the storms can develop a little bit earlier. But it's going to be those isolated storms somewhere, likely in a box extending from Childress to Lawton to Elk City. That little triangle right there is probably the highest chance of getting a strong tornado, possibly multiple tornadoes in that little quadrant right there. So somewhere between the I-40 and the I-44 corridors in southwest Oklahoma, that's your maximized area of tornado potential. Once we get beyond the early evening and approach the mid to late evening, that is when the damaging wind threat picks up substantially across Oklahoma City. And then, that could also expand a little bit further northward into Kansas and a little bit further southward towards northern Texas as well. Wichita Falls also going to be getting some severe thunderstorms later on this evening. So there's a lot going on. Definitely have multiple ways to receive warnings today and tonight. But again, this is highlighted from the National Weather Service office in Norman here. Moderate risk of severe thunderstorms is in effect across Oklahoma, also expanding into parts of Texas and Kansas as well. So stay safe this evening, guys. And I will have more updates for you on different events as they come along. But this is my last update on this event for today. So if you guys want to get more information like this for future events, be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn those post notifications on, and also share this link of the live stream to other people that live in Oklahoma so that you can get the word out to other people as well. But until the next video or live stream, stay safe, and I will talk to you guys back here next time.